Did you ever think you were going to be running an international coffee company?
No, I mean, in 2017, we moved the whole family to Uganda.
What was your experience for like the most challenging part of getting to where you are today?
I think the perseverance, you know, when times are good and times are bad. When times are bad, it's hard to keep pushing.
I'm assuming they really like you at that village.
I love going there, man. It's so nice there. I'd love to have you out sometime.
Yeah, that's incredible. Kingsley, I was so excited for you to join us today for a variety of reasons, but we're going to talk a lot about this today. We're going to talk a lot about how you got to this, because this didn't happen overnight, and where this came from. And you know, you're on the Best of White Rock, and of course, what we're trying to do on the show is highlight local people like you to the community that are doing incredible things, doing great things, and have really neat businesses. And you fit that bill 100%. So I would love for you to let everybody know, who you are. Tell us a little bit about your company, and we'll kind of dive into things.
Yeah, love to. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
nice to be here. I think it's interesting. In 2014, I was living in Dubai with my wife, and we decided to go to Uganda as tourists to go see gorillas and lions and hippos and elephants and all the things you see on your African safaris. And just teachers, no bigger plans to do anything bigger than just kind of teach for a while. And we had one day off. We were walking around the villages. We came to a school called St. Matthew's School, and we spent the afternoon with these kids. And these kids, beautiful kids, big smiley faces, really happy, but also really poor. Not a lot of resources. School's half walls. The roofs are kind of coming down. The windows don't really open or close. So just like a sort of a rough school, but great kids.
Right.
And both of us being in education, we thought, well, what can we do? So we spent the day, we did some, guest teaching. And then at the end of the day, I said, love to help you more. Here's what I can do now. Here's my email. And if you guys want to, get a hold of me sometime, Dubai's not that far away. It's a 4-hour flight. I can always come back. Who knows, right?
How long ago was this too that you were down there?
This was 2014.
2014, okay.
Yeah, so 2014. So I wasn't planning on going to coffee at all. And Kingha Coffee wasn't in existence as yet.
Yeah.
It was just a teacher. Not just a teacher, but teaching. And so I went back to Dubai, and maybe a month later, so this is around November 2014, I got an email from the school, St. Matthew's School, and they said, thanks for the day with us. We'd love some help. Can we have, a bit of money? I said, okay, well, what would you like?
Like any good international email from, a potentially untrusted source.
Completely. I said, well, I don't really know who you are. I'm not just going to send money to you. How much do you need? And they're like, how about 5,000? So that seems like a lot of money to send to an email address in Uganda.
Are you a prince by chance as well, right?
As much as I like the day with you, I don't really have any faith in this whole system. But anyway,
totally.
If you're serious about it, what I can do, my wife and I can spend the rest of the school year raising a bit of money from friends and family and other schools in the area, and see what we can do. And being a teacher, you have Easter off and Christmas off and all these, obviously the summertime, these big chunks of time off. So we raised about 5,000 US between November and the summertime.
Wow.
And I called the school and said, hey, I have some money for you. And they said, yeah, great, send it. I said, no, it's not going to, we're not doing the sending the email. We talked about it. We're not doing that. I will come in person. And they said, oh, so if you give me a place to live, I'll live in whatever you find, and I'll come in whatever you want to do, I'll do it with you. And that way, at least I can make sure most of the money goes to where it's supposed to go to. I'm sure some's still going to go here and here and here, but for the most part. And they said, okay, so they arranged it and hopped on a flight. And when you fly into this part of the world, it's called Bawindi. Okay. It's this really small town way up in the mountains. It's on the edge of the rainforest where all the mountain gorillas are. So like Jane Goodall, Gorillas in the Mist, it's that place.
Oh, wow.
So super remote. So you fly into this teeny airstrip on this little Cessna, and you 9-person caravan, I think it is. And you come in and they're waiting for me in the parking lot. But this car, truck, Jeep, something, I can't remember. Get in the car. Hey, welcome to Uganda. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you too. We shook hands. And so hop in. So I get in and we start driving. And the first stop is at a carpenter's.
A carpenter's?
A carpenter's, yeah. And I said, what are we doing at a carpenter's? And they said, you need a bed. I said, but you're supposed to have a house for me. And they said, yeah, we have a place for you to sleep, but there's nothing in there. You got to buy all your stuff.
You said a carpenter's, and my mind starts going to like the Taken movies with Liam Neeson. Like, this is not getting this. Not like ending well, right?
Yeah. So we go to the carpenter's, and he says, lie down. you mean lie down? He's lie down in the dirt. Because it's not like carpenter shop. It's just like a shop. He's got some wood out front and a couple of tools. So I lie down and they measure me and they say, okay, you're done. I say, done what? He said, now you pay. So I gave him like $100. And then they said, the bed will be there tonight. You go. So we left and went to the place and they dropped me off and said, the bed will be here in a couple of hours. Welcome to Uganda. And sure enough, the bed showed up with the mattress and a blanket. They left. And the place they put me in, no electricity, no running water. Nobody knew where I was. My cell phone didn't work.
Oh my gosh.
And nightfall comes, it's pitch black, right? And I've got really no clue, and it's kind of freaky. And there's all these noises. There's monkeys jumping on the roof, and there's lizards, and there's birds. It's like, it's wild. I'm in like the jungle.
Yeah.
And so kind of a rough night, the first night. But I woke up the next day and went to the school, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. And I spent the next 2.5 months, and we built goat sheds, we built classrooms, we built toilet blocks, we built a huge garden, all kinds of activities for the school, for the kids. I did a bunch of teaching, and I brought a bunch of supplies with me. So I spent this time with the schools trying to just really help out, and spend the money we had brought. But up there's nothing to do in the evening. So I was hiking a lot, hiking in the hills, hiking, and there's coffee growing everywhere.
Okay.
But not really in like a farmed manner. It's like they sort of grow coffee in with the bananas and with the cassava and with the mangoes and the avocados, all this beautiful food.
So like it's intentional though. So it's scattered around. It was meant to be there.
It's meant to be there because it's a cash crop. So they pick it and then somebody comes by and buys it for whatever price they can get and it vanishes.
Okay.
And I thought, what if I can do something more with this? Coffee, people like coffee. Everyone drinks coffee. What can I do with coffee? So I started talking and decided to get a piece of land. And I found somebody who actually had a title, because everybody, as soon as you say you're looking for land, everyone comes, oh, I've got land to sell you, here, buy my land. And I was like, I don't know how any of this works.
Yeah.
This is all so new to me. So after the summer had finished at the school, I kept going back to Uganda from Dubai trying to find land. And after a while, I found a piece with a title, and I bought the land. And then I went to the government and said, I've got 20 acres of land, and I want to grow coffee. And what I want to do is I want to use any proceeds above and beyond the cost of operating to put into this school here, this school here, this school here, this village here.
Wow.
All these projects. But I don't know what I'm doing. And they said, okay, well, if you call this guy Sam, he'll show up and help you. Okay, sure. So I called this guy Sam, and I'm up in the middle of Uganda, kind of on my own. My wife is in Dubai. I'm just sort of, as I go, figuring it out. Mm-hmm. This guy shows up.
Call this guy Sam.
Yeah. Call Sam. So I call Sam.
Who's Sam?
I said, Sam, I need coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee trees. Apparently you're the guy to call to help me make a coffee farm.
Right.
He's like, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. So sure enough, the next day, Sam rolls up in a truck with 20,000 coffee seedlings. And each seedling's like this big.
Wow.
I said, okay, what am I doing with this? He's like, you're supposed to put a coffee farm here. I said, yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, that's not my problem. My problem is to bring you the coffee trees. Just sign here.
Right.
So I signed, and he said, great. And he left me with 20,000 trees on this piece of land. Now what do I do?
Oh my gosh.
So I went to the village next door, and I said, hey, who wants to help me plant coffee? Come back, and tomorrow we'll have a meeting. So I went back the next day, and I'm trying to negotiate. And I don't speak the local language yet. I speak a bit now, but I wasn't at all.
What's the language there?
It's called Ruchiga.
Ruchiga.
It's a very tribal country, so there's lots of different tribes. So the Ruchiga they speak here, they might speak Luganda over the mountain, they might speak Renyankoli over here. So it's very central to the villages and to the tribes.
Okay.
So I was learning this Ruchiga language. I'm trying to negotiate. We ended up coming to an agreement on a per hole price. So I hired almost the entire village, everybody I could hire.
Wow.
And they came out, and we spent about 2 months digging every single hole by hand, 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, and putting the trees in the grounds. Wow. 20,000 trees. Took us maybe a month, maybe 2 months, but got it all in the grounds. And when you do it, because it's all by hand, there's no machinery, you have to get like an A-frame, and you put this A-frame in the ground with a rock, and the rock goes back and forth off the string, and when the rock stops swinging, that's when you're level, and that's where you put the trees, and you move the A-frame.
Oh.
So it takes a very long time, very time-consuming, very it's all hand done.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we had 20,000 trees in the ground. So I had a business per se. So I went down to the lawyers and said, now I need to open a business. They said, what do you want to call it? So I don't know, coffee this, coffee something, and all these names were taken. And I thought, well, my name's Kingsley, my wife is Maha. Put it together, you get Kingha.
Oh, that's
which is where the name comes from.
Oh, good. Okay.
So in 2015, I went down with the lawyers. We went down to the registry department and put in the name Kingha. They approved it, got an official business going, then went back to the land and spent, a few months just trying to get things up and running. But in that time, I knew nothing about coffee. I was a teacher, so I was still going back to Dubai to work and then coming to Uganda in my free time, like I said, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, whatever it was.
And this is over the course of a few years now. So
this is about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So about 2017 now. But before that, I had to learn how to do coffee. So I went to a bunch of coffee farms in Ethiopia and visited the coffee farms and learned how to grow coffee from these amazing farmers. They taught me how to process coffee, how to wash coffee. So I spent some time learning.
Okay.
Then took that knowledge back to Uganda, back to the Buwindi area, and then kind of learned, sort of taught people there what to do. And after 2.5 years, you get a small harvest. I took that to some people in the city. The capital is called Kampala.
Okay.
And I said, I have this project up in Buwindi. I'm growing coffee for charity purposes for these schools and these other things, this village. Would you want to buy it? And they said, is it any good? I said, I've got no idea. How do you tell if it's good or not? They said, well, you take the sample, you put it in this machine, we roast it, we taste it, and we give it a score. And they did all that work and said, it's pretty good, actually. We'll buy it. How much do you have? I was like, this little bag in my hand. That's all I have.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if you can go back and get more, then we'll buy everything.
Wow.
So, another year goes by. Now the trees are 3-4 feet tall.
Okay.
And there's coffee. And so now I went to the village again and said, okay, I need people to come pick the coffee. But the way it works in Uganda, it's very gender specific, the labor roles. So the women, when I was trying to hire people to dig the holes, they refused. That's a man's job. When I was hiring people to pick the coffee, the men refused. That's a woman's job. And it's very much in their culture. They just said, this is what we do. This is what they do. Men do the labor, women do this work. And so I hired all the ladies to pick the coffee, picked the whole bunch, took it back again. This time sold it and took the money back to the project and said, now I've got this much income. Here's our expenses. This is for the village. And then kind of started repeating. And the coffee company grew and the trees started to grow. And then every year there was a bit more money to put back into these projects.
I'm assuming they really like you at that village. Kingsley's back. This is great.
I love going there, man. It's so nice there. I'd love to have you out sometime.
That's incredible.
It's an amazing part of the world. And now we were up to about 2018, 2019. The coffee's growing. We're selling it. We're supporting St. James School, Yamiyaga School, Bajengwe School, Mayanja School, and Barima School. So 5 schools we're supporting. And then 2020, COVID came. And the whole world started, kind of freaking out or whatever.
And you were still down there at that time?
Still in Uganda, yeah. So we're still living in Uganda. And then no one really knew. Maybe somebody knew. I didn't know how good or bad it was going to be.
Sure.
And the healthcare up there is good, but not amazing. So we decided to come to Canada because I went to UBC years ago and I knew this area and thought, there's a family, we can move here and we can wait a month or 2 till it blows over and go back.
Well, yeah. I guess what we all thought at the time.
That was the plan. The plan was so we went to Squamish and thought, okay, we'll stay in Squamish for a few months. When this blows over, we'll go back to Uganda. And then within a month, the whole world shut down, no more flights, no more Uganda. So we're just in Squamish. Beautiful part of the world, but no job, no career. Everything we had was, in Uganda. So, okay, what can I do? Maybe I'll try and import the coffee here. So I went through all these crazy loopholes, managed to get myself back to Uganda through different COVID tests and different flights, whatever. Got back there and sent coffee here in 2021, maybe.
Okay.
And just a little bit to see what the market was like. And then took that and kind of shared it around, got some feedback and thought, actually, maybe if I can start bringing my coffee from my coffee farm all the way to, here in BC, I can control the entire supply chain, which means I can put more of the profits back into the schools and back into the charity projects. Because the whole idea of this from the first place was to do charity.
Right.
So, okay, how do I do this? So I ended up opening a company here. So I've got Kingha Uganda and Kingha Canada.
Okay.
And so the company here now imports the coffee we grow in Uganda. So I grow it all, I export it, I import it, and then this year we opened a roastery just down the street from your place.
Wow.
Where I roast the coffee, which is what's in these bags.
Oh my goodness.
So it's a full circle coffee roastery.
Right.
Where all the coffee that we offer is coffee that we grow in Uganda.
Wow. So
it's pretty amazing to be able to close that whole loop.
Well, and what an experience to come out of visiting for safari. I guess you were down there.
Yeah.
And a path that, did you ever think you were going to be running an international coffee company?
No, I mean, in 2017, we moved the whole family to Uganda.
Right.
So that was the big one. We thought we'd stay there.
Yeah, there was no plans to come back.
No, it's a beautiful part of the world. I was up there working on the farm, and it was getting bigger, and there was some traction. And my wife had become a head teacher at a school down there, so she was,
Okay, so she was still teaching down there. Were you teaching down there as well a little bit? Or
no, I mean, I pop into the schools and I teach here and there. I still do that sometimes when I can because I love school kids. There's so much fun, so much energy, and just these smiling faces. So I love that part of it. But I had stopped teaching, but she was now a head teacher.
Okay.
So we were based in Kampala, the capital city, but I was spending most of my time on the farm.
Okay.
And flying back and forth in this little sketchy airplane, up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
Got to know the pilots really well. Great airline, actually. But I never thought it would come full circle. I always knew I wanted to grow the coffee, do the charity work. I thought in the back of my head, if I can find a way to roast it, I can probably get more income for the projects, but I wasn't sure how that would work out. And then COVID, blessing, curse, whatever you want to call it, pushed us in that direction. And, now we're here. So
that's amazing.
It just kind of, a lot of work, a lot of perseverance, a decade in all this work, but it's here. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So you bring this all in from other areas, or not from Uganda rather, and you bring it all in, you roast it here and that sort of thing. So this bag, I want to talk about that in a moment because it's got a neat story behind it that you just shared with me. I want to make sure we capture that. But when you're operating in like the community now sort of thing, so do you have like staff or like what's your operation kind of look like?
Here in
British. Well, and I guess you have staff back in Uganda as well.
We're up to 85 staff in Uganda.
Holy smokes.
In the busy season. So we've got 15 full-time, and then when the harvest comes in, you've got to pick the coffee. We need about 85 altogether.
Wow.
So it's a big staff there. Here it's a small staff. There's about 4 of us.
Right.
2 full-time and then 2 part-time. And what we have here is the roastery, where all the coffee, it's also a warehouse, so the coffee is a warehouse there.
Okay.
And then we do all the roasting there, and we do coffee tastings. We're going to start opening barista classes.
Wow.
And then one of the things I'm really going to focus on is coffee sensory classes. Because I don't think there's a huge amount of understanding what it takes to get coffee from where it comes from to the cup.
Right.
So I want to do some education around that to show people, to drink this cup of coffee, it has to go through all these steps.
Yeah.
So it's a place to roast coffee. It's a place to learn about coffee. It's a place to experience coffee. And it's a place to showcase all the things we do in Uganda.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I always wonder, everyone, for whatever industry they're in, I'm always so curious, like, what's that one thing that you wish everybody knew about your industry or about coffee that maybe they don't understand or maybe they don't appreciate? What would you say that is?
I think there's just a number of steps it takes. Like when I had somebody come in yesterday for a coffee tasting and they said, show me the coffee. So I showed them the raw product that's not roasted. And their question was, why isn't it brown? It's like, because we haven't roasted it yet.
Right.
It's, I've never seen it like this before. So I think understanding that it comes off the tree, you got to pick it off a tree. And
it's a berry, right?
It's a berry.
Yeah.
It's actually a cherry. It's called a coffee cherry.
Okay.
So you can actually take the cherry off the tree and you can eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
You spit out the seed, which is the bean that you roast.
Right.
But the flesh of the cherry is really sweet. And so I think just understanding where it comes from and what it takes to get it to your front door.
Right.
There's so many steps involved. And doing all those steps ourselves, like that full circle roastery, it's a huge amount of work, but it's hugely very rewarding.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just share that knowledge with people and explain and help them understand that you pick it off a tree as a cherry, heavy XYZ steps and to get to your cup.
Right.
And every step can either go, one way or the other, but as long as you're careful, the coffee's beautiful.
Right, right. What was the most difficult? I mean, that's a long journey. There's a lot of moving pieces in that.
Okay.
What was your experience for like the most challenging part of getting to where you are today?
I think the perseverance, when times are good and times are bad. When times are bad, it's hard to keep pushing and keep pushing. And,
Sure.
and going to a foreign country, I mean, I've lived in lots of places overseas, some Australia, England, Middle East, Uganda. So I've traveled quite a bit. But moving to a country that's so foreign to what I had been, grown up with, and trying to learn the customs and trying to be really respectful always of those customs and that culture, and also operating a business. Because,
Right.
businesses have to make money to exist. And end of the day, I'm selling a product to, provide charity, but you still have to run a business. So I
Right.
think the hardest part was learning how to be a businessman in Uganda in a foreign country, foreign language, foreign currency, foreign everything. Mm-hmm. So the learning curve was incredibly steep.
Yeah, well, I mean, running a crew of like 80, 85, give or take, in a different country where you're not maybe there, and then you got your team here. I mean, that's amazing.
Sometimes to get coffee, if we don't have enough on the farm, other farmers will bring me coffee.
Sure.
And we can do like a, farmer select group or some sort of special for them. But to meet the farmers, I've got to go find them sometimes. And so sometimes when I'm on a little motorcycle up this mountain, a sketchy mountain pass, don't know where I'm going. I just see coffee and, oh, there's coffee up there. I'm going to go find it. So I go down, negotiate the price for a motorcycle for the day. It's like $1.50 for the day. Hop on the motorcycle and go up into these villages and just sit down with the families and say, hey, you guys have coffee. I have this project. I'd love to support your village. Can I can purchase your coffee. If you can grow it really well, we can pay you a really good price and I can, sell it down the line. And they've never had their own coffee. So one of the challenges also is finding the coffee and explaining to them why they should work with me. But one of the beautiful things is when you get a bit of coffee from a farmer who's never tried her own coffee or his own coffee, and you take it back and you don't tell them you're going to do this. You take the coffee back and you process it and dry it and roast it. And you come back a week later with this coffee that's roasted, and you bring a little snack called chapati, which is like this local flatbread, beautiful food. You bring chapati and coffee to this farmer who's up on the hill and has never tried his own coffee. You sit down and you give him a cup of hot coffee. He says, what is this? You say, this is your coffee. You say to the wife, this is your coffee. And she's like, this is from my farm? And say, yeah, this is from your farm. Wow. You grew this. And she's like, this is great. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's really good. Like, it's amazing. And now you get to try it. She's like, I never tried coffee before. And then you sit down with the family and you have this moment where you're like, it's really touching. Yeah. You're kind of sitting with the community, with the family, and you're in their little house, and they open the doors to you, and that's when you're really starting to make an impact because you're welcomed into these communities, and it feels really good.
Well, that was one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you is because of the impact you're making. You've affected so many people in a positive way back in Uganda, and you brought that spirit and energy back to Canada. And now you got the best of both worlds because you get to. I mean, Uganda sounds beautiful as well. Yeah. I always like to chat about how lucky we are, like to live in Canada and British Columbia and White Rock as well. Like it's a beautiful piece of the world as well, right? So we're so fortunate, and actually that ties in well into the design on this, and we'll make sure that there's a good picture of this that pops up on the video here. But there's a little bit of a story behind this bag design, and this is relatively new, the bag design, or is it?
Yeah. These are the first full edition. There's been other editions. This is the first full one. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm seeing in here, I mean, there's lots of really neat colors, which is likely inspired by Uganda, your visits to Uganda. What am I looking at here when I look at the labels on here?
Yeah, so this was the lady who painted these. Her name's Catherine Robertson.
Okay.
And she lives in White Rock, and she's a beautiful lady. And I met her, and I decided that I'd like to do something with her. And I'd seen her artwork, and it was amazing, and it captured me. And I said, can you maybe make me something that blends Uganda and White Rock together? Because I have this coffee farm, and I'd like to open a business here. And so she painted this, and there's 4 original oil paintings. And this is my office here in Uganda and our little security guard house. And these are our coffee trees. And then this is Mount Baker, and this is White Rock Beach.
Wow.
And so I gave her a bunch of photos of the coffee farm, but that's all. This is all her own inspiration, all of her own everything. Yeah. So I just said, here's the coffee farm. There's the national bird of Uganda, the crested crane. But she did all the design, beautiful, and she put the colors in there and she brought it to life. And I love the fact that it's got the White Rock Beach here, and it's got Baker and the Orca, and then you flip over to this side and you've got the crested crane, and you've got my office and the Rwenzori Mountains here. It mixes both worlds so well.
Well, it's so great. And then on the side here, you've got grown in Uganda, roasted in Canada.
Yeah, I love
Very
that.
cool.
Yeah,
it's so awesome.
Yeah.
Where would I go to find this? So like, and what's the plan? Is there a plan to expand, get it into more places and that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, currently you can obviously come to the Roastery. We're open 3 days a week. So you can come anywhere, Monday, Thursday, Saturday, 10 to 5. Yeah. Drop by and we got coffee tasting and pick up a bag. It's also at Grounds and Greens on Johnson Street.
It's like my favorite restaurant in town.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Awesome.
So when you go there, our coffee is served in their machines. It's also available for purchase there.
Okay.
And then Chan Supermarket as well.
Yeah.
The one on King George and 16th.
Okay.
You can pick it up there.
Yeah.
And again, my Roastery. And then I think one more place, I don't want to say the name yet, it's in the works, but probably by next week there'll be another coffee shop.
Amazing.
So slowly building.
That's so great. I think I was at Grounds and Greens eating lunch with my wife, and I think they were doing social media for this when they first brought it in. It wasn't not that long ago.
No, we had the whole staff come to the Roastery.
Yeah.
And we did a big coffee tasting. So I had all the different coffees I have.
Right.
And they tried them all with the owners as well, the whole entire staff. And they all kind of gravitated towards the same coffee, which is the one that's in these bags. So I let them choose, and they had a great time and said, we want this one. I said, okay.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's really fun that way.
So what's next for Kingha Coffee?
I think the next steps is to continue to grow I really like White Rock. I love the area. The people here have been really welcoming. And I just like to grow the local aspect of the business. I want to become part of the business community here and hold events and do the trainings and just really become kind of a local coffee hub in the area. And then from there, expand. But initially, I really want to just build up that local feeling.
It's so neat. I mean, it's a great product. The soul behind the product, though, I think is what really makes it special, and the story behind it. And I'm going to encourage anybody that has an opportunity to check out some of the places to go check this out, or maybe come visit the roastery and whatnot.
Yeah, I love it.
To come give it a try, and know that you're supporting something that's so awesome on a different side of the planet, but also you're supporting somebody that's local, that's just a really good person doing good things for their community. So I think that's a really neat project, and kudos to you and your wife for
She's been amazing.
A simple trip to Uganda to go look at some animals turned into an international coffee chain.
Yeah, I love that it's full circle. I love that we do all the things. That was like trying to get to that point. I'm here. It's like I've actually reached that point.
Yeah.
You put a decade of work in, and you see, wow, like you see all the steps. And people often ask me, how do you know that you're being, that your support in Uganda is being successful? I've had some ups and downs, but one of the ways, and this is it's hard to, you can't really put it on a spreadsheet. You can't capture it in like a data point. But when people come visit me or anybody asks me, I'll take them to the villages. And I've got some, before and after photos, but really going down to the villages we work with and the people that we employ and the farmers. And you see that when I first came there, maybe the houses were all made out of mud. A lot of the kids weren't in school, no one had shoes on, they had some stuff, but after 10 years of direct economic impact, the villages are bigger, the roofs have houses, people are employed, the kids are in school. And that's when you know that what you started out as like a little charity project is having this amazing economic impact on the ground, and you're really empowering and bettering the lives of a lot of people.
Right.
And that puts the big smile, on my face. When the days are hard, I think about that and think, what we're doing is actually amazing. Yeah. And I love the fact that you can go and say, look, this is what we've done. You want to come see, look at all the things we're doing. And it's amazing to be part of that.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Well, I want to appreciate you for being on the Best of White Rock. I'm going to make sure everybody knows about this coffee, and I'm really going to encourage everybody to try it. And thank you for all the good things you're doing for everybody. That's really exciting.
It's my pleasure. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me and for chatting with me. And it's been nice.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you.